Finally tonight, a treasure trove of Japanese painting makes its way to the United States just in time for a spring celebration in the nation's capital. Judy Woodruff had the opportunity to get a first look.
It's not every day that an art exhibition receives an exalted blessing. But the 30 painted silk scrolls that make up the colorful realm of living beings were heralded with prayer, incense, and pageantry by monks of the Shokokuji Monastery in Kyoto. The magisterial but very fragile collection of masterpieces is a Japanese national treasure, painted in the mid-18th century by the virtuosic nature painter Ito Jakuchu. But it is almost never seen in public. Think of the Mona Lisa, 30 of her, or Van Gogh's Starry Night, being kept from view on a near permanent basis. Then you'd have an idea how rare an occasion it is to see work of such importance.
This is a remarkable
Yukio Lippitt, a Harvard professor of Japanese art, is the exhibit's guest curator.
Colorful Realm took over 10 years to make. It is an encyclopedia of technique and use of materials. It's also very experimental, and it really has no known precedence in Japanese and East Asian painting traditions.
The scrolls of Colorful Realm are on display together for the first time ever outside Japan at Washington's National Gallery, the product of sensitive diplomatic and cultural negotiation. The collection is widely considered the finest example of Japanese nature painting. The 30 Scrolls series is on loan from the imperial household. A Jakuchu triptych of the Buddha and two bodhisattvas, the centerpiece of the exhibit, was sent by the monks of Shokokuji, to whom the artist gave it nearly 250 years ago.
It was meant to be used for a Buddhist ceremony 1 day per year, and so to have it displayed for 4 weeks in Washington is a very special occasion.
The works are part of the centennial celebration in Washington of the 1912 Japanese imperial gift of cherry trees, which line the tidal basin, the yearly blooming as a rite of spring here. The artist, Jakuchu, came from a prosperous line of grocers in the 1700s. His daily exposure to fish and fowl informed his painting. But he was also a devoted Buddhist, and in middle age passed on his family business to focus on his art and his faith.
And what he was trying to accomplish, it had everything to do with the Buddhist ritual, the subject that he chose, and the presentation.
Yes. Individually, these works are referred to as bird and flower paintings, which is a genre of East Asian painting that connotes auspicious messages. But as a totality, hung here in this space, in conjunction with a triptych of the Buddha, they were meant as a ceremonial backdrop that was representative of a grand sermon by the Buddha in front of all of the living creatures of the world.
And why why the flowers, why the birds, and in one instance, insects,
right.
Peacocks?
That's right.
Why these?
The series took over 10 years to create, and there seems to have been an evolution in the nature of the paintings over the course of those 10 years. Initially, they were fairly, we might say, conventional bird and flower paintings, fairly scripted pairings of different kinds of flora and fauna according to the rules of the genre. But as the series evolves and Jakuchu becomes committed to the idea of creating a large set that serves as a backdrop for a sermon, he begins to introduce idiosyncrasies. He multiplies his motifs. You start having paintings with 13 roosters, 146 varieties of shellfish.
This painting is shells, and you were saying it's a really wonderful example of what Jakuchu was trying to do.
Yes, Jakuchu is a painter who is characterized by a very careful, meticulous attention to surface detail, texture, coloristic detail in his motifs. But that's combined with a certain whimsical fantastical approach to form. We don't quite know what's going on here. There's water on either side, and then you have these monstrous shells that look like dinosaur skulls in the case of the one in the lower corner. There are various faces or eyes embedded in the various shells. So it's this kind of combination that lends this a kind of fantastical, even dreamlike quality, very characteristic of Jakju.
So right next to it is a painting titled Chicken, and it's a lot of roosters. And the detail is extraordinary.
Yes, the detail is mesmerizing.
But there they are, very close together, and the look in the eye of some of them.
Yes, it's as if they're craning their necks to hear some kind of ambient sound, except I always enter the painting through this rooster in the lower center who's looking directly at the viewer, who seems to be providing a little comic relief, in fact.
Because I see the look on his face.
That's right, that's right. He might not want to be there.
When Jakuchu painted these, he said, it may be 1,000 years before people really understand what I was trying to do. What did he mean by that?
He seemed to think that he was painting in a very solitary mode, and that there were no contemporaries who could fully appreciate his works, but that they would be appreciated a millennium in the future.
So he had a high opinion of himself, of his ability, his talent.
He had high standards for his own art making, and what's remarkable is that we keep learning new things about his life and work that do allow us to view his paintings in a different way.
Americans today, people all over the world, are so busy. Life is moving at a much faster pace than it was in the mid-1700s when Jakuchu painted this. Does that make it harder, do you think, for people today to appreciate this kind of work?
I think it does. I think these are works that are so detailed, so well crafted, that they really are predicated upon very long periods of looking and contemplation in a quiet milieu. So one of the things I hope this exhibition does is it really allows people to slow down their metabolism for even a short period of time during the day, and really just take in the artworks and the kind of cultural significance of the artworks before having to return to their fast-paced lives.
Well, we could all use a little slowing down.
Yes.
So that's one more reason to appreciate all this.
Yes.
Yukio Lippert, thank you very much for talking with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
The Silk Scrolls remain on exhibit at the National Gallery through April 29.